Hey, welcome to another episode of the Dan Lok Show. Today I am very, very happy, very excited. Now you may not know this, but my good friend sitting right here, he knows. He gave me the idea. It was one time we were in a mastermind group. He gave me the idea to start my SaaS company, right, closers.com. He's the one. He's the one.
Yeah.
But not just that, credentials wise, took a company from 300 million to over $3.4 billion in less than 5 years.
Yeah.
How many people on the planet have done that? So I'm very, very excited. Welcome to the show, Sharran. I appreciate it. Share with us a little bit about your background for my audience who doesn't know you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I think it goes to show that however much we grow, however much we have created, however much we have accomplished, the greatest of entrepreneurs have this one skill, and that is the power of attribution. Like you started this, I'm your guest here, I'm on your show, I'm on your platform, but you still started with attribution of how an idea came in, how you used it. You did everything with it, but the power of attribution is so amazing. And in today's world, everyone is taking credit.
Too much ego, not enough gratitude.
Right, and it's just saying, hey, as Dan Lok says, here are the 5 words you need to use to create transformation. Just give the attribution, give it the attribute to the source. And I think there's a lot of power that comes with that and a lot of gratitude that comes with it. Thank you for having me on. So I was born to very humble parents. They didn't have a lot in India. And my father early on realized that I was dyslexic. ADD, ADHD, I was colorblind, I was tone deaf, whatever you could have from a symptoms perspective, Dan, I struggled with that. And I never told my parents about it. It was to the point where I got bullied so much in school that I would walk around the school to get to a classroom just so I wouldn't get bullied in the corner.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, it's just
exactly the same thing.
And I didn't know how to tell my parents that because I was the only child from Asian culture, I was the only child. And one day my dad found out that I was beaten. And he said, hey, what happened? And I had to kind of break down and tell him the whole story. That was the beginning of everything that my dad did. And my dad used these words in attribution. He says, transformations don't happen in isolation.
Yes.
And that was so when I started telling my dad that, he said, hey, this culture is too structured, doesn't allow you to have the career and the life that you want. So my parents put a plan together to get me out of India. My parents...
How old were you back then?
I was 11 when I had this conversation with my dad.
Okay.
My parents worked for 6+ years, and then they sold everything that they had.
Wow.
Gave it everything just to send me to the States.
Wow.
They handed me one check for 1 year of university. And they said, hey, Sharran, here's one check, here's your gift. Yeah. If you can go make the world out of this, do it. And if you can't, come back, we'll still take care of you. Called it the ultimate sacrifice, Dan. Like that was the creation of everything that happened. And I believe that for that sacrifice, I don't just have an opportunity, but a responsibility to pay it forward, a duty to pay it forward. And for that, even till this day, that I'm super grateful to my parents for that.
And when you first got to the United States, what was life like, right? Because the English wasn't good.
Yeah, nothing.
Right, same thing.
Yeah.
Right? And what did you do to get through that period of time? What was it like?
Yeah, so you'll love the story. I may not even share this with you. So the first job that I got, I was really embarrassed to have a job because I came from a decent middle class family. And the only job I could get was the janitorial job. So I was mopping floors, and I didn't want my classmates to see me mopping floors. So I took the midnight to 6 a.m. shift. And I'm mopping floors, and this older janitor tells me, Sharran, your English is not that great. I suggest you go get some language tapes. Language tapes. Yeah. So I go to the library, I ask for language tapes. She says, well, I have Mandarin, I have German, I have Japanese, but I don't have English. But she hands me an audiobook. Okay. She's like, try the audiobook. This will at least get you going. Well, the audiobook was Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins.
Oh, wow.
So the only way I know how to speak is yelling and screaming because I heard Tony mopping floors 6 hours a day. So my introduction, learning English was from Tony Robbins.
But still, that exposed you to the personal development, self-growth world, right?
Right. The one story I'll share is it was not all rosy. I remember my early days, and as international students, I showed up on day one. I went to financial services. I handed them my one check that my father gave me. I was so proud. And she hands me my dorm room key. She's like, Sharran, welcome. And then she tells me, hey, it's an international check. It's going to take 10 to 14 days to clear. So come back and see me in 14 days. So I had no money for 14 days. I didn't have money to buy food for 14 days. I remember this day vividly. 2 days in, I had not eaten for a while, and I was walking down campus. I saw this dumpster, and I saw a couple people throw a couple of pizza boxes into this dumpster. I mustered the courage. I jumped in. I grabbed the pizza boxes, and I ran to my room. And I was like, wow, I made it. This is good. I had a couple slices of pizza. The next day, I was still hungry, and this is a true story. It was late at night, and I saw two guys throw Subway sandwiches into this dumpster. I said, today's a bonanza. This is amazing. This is better than yesterday.
Yes.
Then I jump in, I grab the Subway sandwiches, I grab a box of Pop-Tarts, and then suddenly something whacks me in the face, and I start bleeding. There was a raccoon
Oh, wow.
in the dumpster with me, like an 8x10 dumpster, and fight or flight kicks in.
Yes.
I grab the box of Pop-Tarts, I grab the Subway sandwiches, I kick the raccoon, and I run. I just jump out and I run. And that's when I realized, if this is rock bottom, if this is the baseline, I can take a lot of risk in my life. And a lot of times I think we all, I just talked about this before the show came on, is that we work in this band of safety. And knowing that I can expand the band, knowing that I can take more risk, allows us to do more, be more.
And sometimes I say to people, when you hit rock bottom, well, you can't fall any, you can't do any worse. You already hit rock bottom.
Right.
Like it's like sometimes I notice people, they say they're struggling financially, right? Say, oh, I've got no money. I've got only a few $100, $1,000. I don't want to invest in myself. I don't want to make a change. And I'm like, you already hit rock bottom. What difference does it make? Seriously, what difference does it make, right?
Yeah.
Like invest that $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is. Buy that book. You can't fall under this. So it's something very interesting. So what was the turning point? From that point on, how did you get into business?
So what I didn't have was, all I knew I had was this ticket, this one check for the 1 year of school. I had to come up with 3 more years of university. And so I needed to do something. And the funniest story was, I walk into my dorm room on day one, and this was old school. We didn't have Wi-Fi back then. They just wired the dorm rooms. And I realized that the plug to the internet and the bed, and the desk, was 13 feet long. So I said, everybody in these dorm rooms are gonna need 13-foot long cables. So I drove to Minnesota. I bought as much cable as my roommate's credit card would actually do.
Other people's money. OPM.
Zero investment.
I love it.
We bought so much cable that I didn't have clothes. I put all the cable in my closet.
Yeah.
We sold cable at $3 a foot. We made $57,000 in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And that, even before school started, that paid for the school for next year. So me and my roommate split 50-50. His parents were like, why did you charge $20,000 on this credit card? And we paid it all back. But we made $57,000 in 3 weeks, and that was the beginning of, oh my goodness, we have
closing and entrepreneurship.
We could, if I can sell Ethernet cable, I could do anything.
So you saw a need in the marketplace, you just went for it. Combine that with some skill, some closing skill. Maybe not even much closing skill. It's just, hey, you want to buy this, right?
Yeah.
And then boom, right?
Yeah.
But you made money out of thin air.
Yes.
It's simply an idea into that, right? So what was it like? Like, it's kind of the first taste of entrepreneurship, or were you just thinking of I can make some money doing this to like accumulate some tuition money?
I was thinking, as the first. I thought I'd give myself a year to make money, but as soon as I made that upfront, it just gave me this bug that, wow, I didn't even, not that I didn't work hard, I worked hard on the idea. I recognized, I think you've talked about this a lot, it's not about making the best burger, but having the hungry crowd, right?
Yes.
If you can have the hungry crowd, I just found the hungry crowd, and that became everything. I got excited about creating something from nothing, and that was just.
Did you finish the entire university, or did you like?
I stayed. I finished all the way through
Okay,
because I thought it was a responsibility to my parents.
Yes. And in between, did you start other things, trying to do other things to make money?
I had a lot of jobs in between in school. I didn't do paper routes. I actually had a network of other people doing paper routes so that I would get paid.
Yes.
So I did a lot of jobs. But
Entrepreneurial activities, right? Yeah.
totally. And then I started my first software company out of my dorm room. And during the technology boom, I was able to take my software and go to another software company in the Silicon Valley. And then we grew that, and that was our first exit, and we sold that during the technology boom.
I see. And in between, as an entrepreneur, what are some of the lessons you've learned? We were talking about scale, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that. How do you view scale? How do you view growing a company very rapidly?
Yeah, I think we've been doing this all very naturally, but the hardest part for me has been, just like you've been very humble to say, hey, I started 11, 12 ventures and they didn't go very well. And you've been so gracious to talk about that. I had many of those, and I think the only ones that didn't succeed were the ones that didn't have a promise. Like, I promised that, the promise is when you buy X, you get Y.
Yes.
And now people are trading you for the promise, so now you can just scale Y. I think a lot of times what people think is,
It's on the product. This is what this is.
Right.
Versus what is it going to do for me? Right?
Exactly. And I think as soon as I started figuring out the promise, things started really. So the biggest thing now I tell my team is there are two things that we always do before we start any initiative. What is the promise?
Yes.
And then what are the non-negotiables?
Yes.
People always think, well, what is the offer? What is the benefit? What is, like, all that's secondary.
Yes.
Like, what is the promise? The promise is it's going to save Dan or an engineer or a salesperson.
Like a one-liner.
Yeah, it's going to save you 30 hours a week. That's an amazing promise. And now you're buying the promise. You're not buying that product.
Yeah.
And so I have to deliver on that promise. Anytime, the hardest part was coming up with the promise. And I think in everything that I've done, the hardest part was, hey, what is the promise? So, we recently had our real estate company that we grew.
Yes.
And I'll give you the promise. The promise was whenever I would talk to anybody, I would say, a real estate agent who would come work with us.
Yeah.
I would say, if you take 7 or more listings a year, our platform can save you 1 day a week. What would you do with an extra 52 days a year? So my promise was delivering them back
The time.
52 days a year.
Yeah.
And everything that we invested in, created,
Yeah.
was centered around delivering that promise.
And from different, like the software company, how did you went from software to real estate?
Yeah, good question. So after we sold our software business,
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. So I took some time off.
Yeah.
I taught tennis around the world.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it's hard to get back in. So I went to business school. I got my MBA. And then I was an investment banker at Wall Street. It's very easy. Once you get your MBA, that was a good feeder program. So I was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs and at Credit Suisse for 5 years. And my partner and I had, who as a mentor, we had invested in a small real estate company that was fledgling, struggling in Beverly Hills. And we came in as a consultant. And then we realized that that small business was, the original founders were going in different directions. So we just served as a consultant. And I said, wow, there's an amazing opportunity here.
Yeah.
The promise is that, exactly what, I was like, I can scale this promise. So I left Wall Street, I quit my job, and I said, I'm going to come and scale this business. And that's how that transition happened.
I see. And from that, what did you do to scale that from like 300 million to 3 billion in like 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Because real estate is a very competitive industry. Right? You know, a lot of competitors, you're working with a lot of agents, a lot of moving parts, right? What are some of the things that you did to scale?
So we used, I always tell people, if we don't have, like, the one thing that I've learned from you is you're really great about saying, hey, here's a framework to begin your thinking. Here's a model to think about. Otherwise, you're just saying, hey, what's my idea today, right? So we came up with a 3-prong model to scale the business. One was, hey, what is our singularity of focus? And the funny part is that it's funny accepting this now. But so I'll tell you, when we were a $300 million company, we could have done a lot better financially. So I looked at the partners and I said, hey, if we could be a $3.4 billion business, we all would make an amazing amount, we'd have amazing lives. And so everyone is laughing at me. They're like, how are we going to do that? How are we going to do 10x? And I said, well, it's actually really simple. If we all know that if we get to this number, it's going to be a great life. And generally, the real estate cycle goes in 7-year cycles, generally speaking.
Every 7 years, people will buy and sell. Yeah.
And every 7 years, markets go up and down too. So I said, well, if it's 7-year cycles, we're just getting into the cycle right now. We need probably a year or two to either sell the business, transition the business, et cetera. So take away 2 years. We have 5 years. I said, hey guys, if we can hit 3.4 billion in 5 years, we're going to have an amazing life. They just started laughing at me. So it was not a mathematical plan to grow 10x in 5 years. It was a dream and a necessity of sorts. And so that was the vision.
Okay.
And the team got so behind that, Dan.
Yeah.
They would say, Sharran, why are you taking the trip to San Diego? It doesn't help us 10x.
Yeah.
Sharran, why are you doing this project? So now the entire company had this filter of 10x, and it makes you very disciplined in what you're.
So there are projects you would say no to, it's like that doesn't fit into our overall vision, right?
Right.
How about do this? You get busy, you get excited,
Sure.
you get creative.
We're entrepreneurs.
Right?
You want to do more.
New idea every day, but you're like, no, we're not going to do that because, and the whole team kind of holds each other accountable.
Exactly, and so that's number two. So number one is singularity of focus.
Yeah.
Number two is our cadence of accountability.
Yeah.
We realized that we needed a topic that's near and dear to your and my heart is people, hiring people.
Best people.
How do you hire great people? Because I said, we're going to do it organically without acquiring companies. So we put together this team, 11 managers, called recruiters, who recruit salespeople to grow our. Like we had 612 salespeople to grow our business. That's how we grew. And the cadence of accountability was, and Dan, it was so simple. Every morning at 9:45, we would do a call.
Okay.
And the call was extremely simple. How many appointments did I have yesterday?
Yes.
How many am I committed to having today?
Okay.
So we would go in order. Dan, 0-3. Sharran, 3-3. Jenny, 2-2.
So like a morning huddle.
Morning huddle.
That's what I do. Yeah, it's cool.
But when someone says 0-0, they never say 0-0 the next day because that accountability forces them to.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, Dan, that was the one thing that changed the nature of our entire business because you socialized the accountability.
Yeah.
And 11 managers would get on every morning and they would say their numbers.
They'd be embarrassed. Oh man, 0.
0-0.
What's going on, man? Like 0 5 days straight. Something is wrong.
And you don't even have to say that. What they will say is 0-0. But Sharran, I'm on it. I have 14 calls today, and so they will self-correct.
Yeah.
And just that 15-minute exercise changed the growth of our company. And the last thing I'd say, so the first one is singularity focus, second one is cadence of accountability. And the third one is, I tell the team, good process drives good results. It's very easy when you're scaling to just hack it.
What was driving the business? Was it to recruit more agents, right? That was mainly it,
That's
right?
it, yeah.
Okay.
So we were recruiting agents, we were recruiting great agents that fit the model, fit the culture, so that they could go sell more.
Got it.
Yeah, and provide a platform for them, which was the 52 days a year, and to sell more. And the last one was this good process drives good results, because we said, if we're making a promise on delivering this 52 days a year off, I still need to deliver that promise. So we need a process that we can depend on.
Did you use any of the background, the skills that you've accumulated through technology with this business?
Yeah, totally. A lot of the efficiencies that we encountered. Software. We always say there's 3 ways to get leverage, right? 1, you got people that can help you. 2, you got like workflows that can help you, and 3, you've got systems that can help you. So we always said, hey, what are the people? What are the workflows? What are the systems? And generally, when you have those 3 in line and a person leaves, it's okay. You can still backfill. But most people, their infrastructure is their people. And it's hard
No workflow, no system.
No workflow, no system. So I always, whenever I, like the CEOs that you mentor, CEOs that I mentor, I can look at their business and say, hey, what's your singularity of focus? All right, great. What's your cadence of accountability? Well, let's talk about process. And generally with those, you can start to figure out where things are broken.
Usually one of those is not working. 2 of those are not working.
Yeah, generally it's 2 of those are not working.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And through this hyper growth, because I experienced this as well, I want your take on it. When you're growing a company so fast, things break. You have to reinvent things all the time. You have more people. What was it like, and what advice would you have entrepreneurs who are scaling very, very quickly? What are kind of the things you have to watch out for?
This is more like personal and vulnerable. I honestly thought you could scale your business 10x or 20x, but the rest of your life will stay the same. I don't think you can scale one part of your life. So I thought, oh, my family, my health, my relationships, they're all here, but I can scale my business 10x. But no, absolutely not. Everything has to level up. And Dan, the first thing that happened was my health broke down. It got so bad that I could not get out of a hospital bed. I was running the company from a hospital bed and nobody knew. And that was a rude awakening for me that, yes, you can grow 10x, but when you grow something, when you scale something, your entire life has to lift along with it. Your relationship has to get better. Like my relationship with my wife was very tough at that time because she was like, hey, you're not showing up.
You're not here.
You're not here, not with the children, etc. And I fixed it this time around and brought her into the process. But I honestly thought, oh, it's just business, I can scale it. And when my health broke down, I really realized that
relationship.
So I almost believe that, so the reverse is also true. If you just upgrade one area of your life and you're open, other areas of your life will start to float up because they have to level up with that. And that was a big realization for me. I never knew that before.
Yes.
And now, for you and me to do more, we probably have to be fitter, smarter, stronger, have better capabilities. I just thought I could work harder.
Yes.
And I don't think the work harder is smart enough. The second big lesson I learned was being really honest with your true core skill set.
Your strengths.
Your strength. I brought on a chief operating officer way too late in the game.
Okay.
Way too late. Because I thought, hey, it's my company.
You run it.
I run it. Who can do it better? No one can do it as good as me. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. And the COO that I brought on he said, Sharran, like I hired a professional COO, and he's so amazing. He's the other side of my coin, very similar to members of your team. And he said to me, he's going to be my partner for life. He's amazing. And he said, Sharran, I'm never going to do it as good as you. But if I get 90% of the way, that's good. Like that means you're not involved at all. And so that made me really think about, hey, how can I go hire some amazing key people that and treat them as partners. Treat them as partners and say, hey, that's Evan's role, that's Desmond's role. And thank you. If Desmond says yes, if Evan says yes, it's good. And that was a huge revelation for me because I thought that if I knew how to do something, that gave me the credibility. And I had to break that cycle.
And sometimes, like entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, where they could be control freaks, right? They're like, "Oh, this is my baby. You don't know it. Let me do it." Right? It happens a lot. So key members, focus, being able to scale. So a lot of the times, here's what I believe. I'll see if you agree with that. Now, 21st century, it's really a war on talents.
100%.
People.
100%.
Not customers.
No.
The best people will win. And attracting good people, retaining good people. What are some of the things that you do to, first of all, to have the great culture, and also to attract talents?
Yeah. So to me, I love the topic of culture. To me, culture is. Everyone thinks about culture as this ethereal thing.
It's not.
To me, culture is very mechanical. It's cadence. Culture is totally about cadence. And I'll give you a very simple example. In our company, every single Sunday night, I write a kickoff email. And my kickoff is just, I believe that I need to lead from the front. And I take an idea, and it may be celebrating our successes, it may be giving back, it may be something that we're doing in the business, but it's just to my internal team. And it's almost like content creation, but I'm pouring out my belief system into the company on Monday morning, every single Monday. On Friday evenings, my COO wraps up the week and he posts our 10 biggest celebrations from the week. Because we have this saying internally that says you get what you celebrate. And then in the middle of the week, on Wednesday evenings, we have what we call a culture call. Which is someone on the team gets to run a Zoom video meeting, and they get to talk about whatever they want. They get to teach.
Interesting.
So Dan comes on, Dan teaches X topic. Sharran comes on, Sharran teaches Star Wars. And so now each of the team members are sharing their personal kind of what's important to them.
And you do it on a weekly basis?
Every single week.
Okay, for how long?
30 minutes on the, so it's a one email on a Sunday night, one email on a Friday to wrap up the week, 30 minutes on the Wednesday, and the daily huddle every morning. So the team is constantly plugged into the belief system. And otherwise, if they can't keep up, they just self-select out. But culture is cadence. I mean, I always talk about this, which is in the 15 years ago, when you and I had our first offices and first teams, our team members came into the office to work with us. And so the office was a physical, cultural space that we could create. Today, it's culture in the cloud. they wake up in the morning, they pick up their phone, and the first thing that they see is their Slack messages, their text messages,
yes,
their
yes.
telegrams, and their
Yes,
emails. If
yes.
that can't empower and empathize with them on the powerful ways of connecting with your belief
Right.
system, you've missed an opportunity there.
Right.
And
right.
so, to me, if we can just lay out the cadence,
Yes.
people will just rally back into that belief system.
That makes sense. It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
Like it's 4 or 5 major things that you do, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Like I went to morning huddle, weekly meeting, culture, weekly memo, and then I brought in, of course, my integrator,
Yeah.
right? That we are the visionary.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing how similar. How
And
similar.
and if it's okay with you, I don't. There's a few CEOs that I mentor that I actually add the weekly email that I send to my internal teams. And if your audience wants it, like we should just give it to them. I'll give it
I'll
to
put a
Desmond.
link somewhere. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
it's
Appreciate that.
sharran.com/kickoff. They can download it. They can see the exact email I write to my team every single week, and maybe that serves as an inspiration for them as well.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what new project are you working on?
So the big thing now is after we sold our real estate business,
Yes.
I realized that there was
Big exit.
After the exit, it was a good exit and good for everybody. It was one of the largest private exits in the United States in the real estate industry, so we're all very grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'd never built anything worldwide, international. That was an itch that I wanted to scratch. And so we created this technology platform for real estate agents. It's marketing automation, sales automation. We currently have a little over 10,000 users across 11 countries. We've been around just 9 months.
Yes.
And the idea is, hey, how can we lifelong nurture leads so that we can help agents do what they do best?
Yeah.
And it involves workflows, systems, culture, automation around the world, and new stuff like AI and things like that.
Yeah.
So it gives me a chance to play in a lot of spaces. So that's the big project right now.
Nice. What's your goal for that project?
The goal for the project, I want 1 million agents using the software, so that
Worldwide. Yes.
so that they can. And the agent market's small, but it's the interesting part is each real estate agent roughly does about 25 transactions a year.
On average.
On average on our platform. So that would be 25 million people that we would touch.
Right.
And so my kind of that goal was, hey, how do I touch a million? And the funny part is, Dan, outside of US and Canada, the rest of the world is in the dark ages when it comes to technology in our space. So
true.
this is a chance to light them up as well, and for me to travel and do Australia, New Zealand, and things like that, which is an amazing opportunity. So I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome, awesome. If you were to give someone a piece of advice, let's say someone who maybe got bullied in school,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you couldn't speak a word of English, maybe an immigrant, tough beginning, trying to still find directions in life, or wanting to be successful, wanting to make something of himself or herself. What would you say to that person?
Yeah. It almost makes me think back and 2 things. One, don't suffer in silence. I think a lot of times what we do is we suffer in silence. We let the problem in our head get bigger in our head. And the easiest thing to do is, it seems cliche, but just write it out, get it out of your head, because fear has no place on paper, right? You can just get it out. So number 1, I would say don't suffer in silence. Find somebody to either get it out or find somebody to talk to. But
Yes.
number 2, I still go back to those words that my dad used. Transformations don't happen in isolation, right? And so you don't have Sifu, nothing's happening. Like there's a reason why you and I spend money on mentors, coaches, mastermind groups. There's a reason why we do that, because when you're inside the bottle, you just can't read that label. So I would say be really brave about finding that mentor, finding that coach. If you need to pay for access, pay for access. It's a very, very small investment to catapult your success. So number 1, don't suffer in silence, get it out of your head.
Yes.
And number 2, transformations don't happen in isolation. And even if you do nothing else, just watch every single Dan Lok video, right? Like just at least do that, because you get, it's osmosis, right, Dan? At least I would rather have your story playing in my head, your advice playing in my head, your scripting playing in my head, than the crap that my friends are telling me. And so when someone tells me, hey, I don't have a mentor, I'm like, have you looked at YouTube? Like, we live in such an amazing generation. So take advantage of that and go deep. The last thing I'd say is don't be a influencer junkie.
Yes.
Right? It's not like you're stop following me, right? Like just you want one person. You pick Dan. You go deep on Dan. You'll start to realize the belief system that there is and how he came from nothing to what he has right now. And in every video, I love watching your videos, and because it's I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my friend, right? And then I'm like, oh, that's a really great idea. Forward it to my team.
Yes.
But I see your warmth. I see your humanity. I know where that's coming from. And I don't think you can just get that with one video or one podcast. I think you got to go deep. So I think we live in an amazing generation now where you can go deep with people.
Because sometimes when you follow this person, you follow that person, you watch that person, there's contradicting advice.
Totally.
And then you get more confused. It's like, I use the martial art metaphor all the time, right? Imagine if this week I'm going to go learn one karate class. Next week I'm going to learn one boxing class. And then I'm going to learn a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class. Like, how good are you going to get? That you don't go deep with anybody. Like,
I have, from a tactical perspective, I've given people, I tell the CEOs that I mentor this, the more successful people get, the more influencer junkie they are, which is really weird to me, right? I say, listen, pick one person for the month of July. Every podcast, they've written a book, every YouTube video, subscribe to their blog. Just have them in your inbox, in your life every day. It will be, I will tell you this, you sit with Dan for 1 month, you are guaranteed to up your skill set, upgrade your capabilities, upgrade your thinking, and just upgrade you're guaranteed. And it's all there for free, which is amazing. And no one realizes how much time, money, resources you invested to create that. Sure, has it helped you? Of course, but 99% was you wanting to put that out, to give, because you know that contribution is so much more powerful. So my gift for you is, number one, don't suffer in silence. Number two, transformations don't happen in isolation. Number two, go deep, because it could do some amazing things.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for being on my show. I mean, I hope you hear the story. Doesn't matter, it's my background, Sharran's background. It's possible. It's just possible that if you want it bad enough, if you go for it, don't give yourself the excuse, I'm not ready, I don't speak English, I don't have the background, I don't know how this works, I don't know all the right people. Don't let that stop you.